Okay, I'm going to begin the recording and bring up the presentation, and Paul will kick us off with some rules of the road and some Zoom etiquette. So just give me 1 minute. All right.
All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. I know people are coming in, but we'll go ahead and get started a little bit. First of all, as you can see, tonight's tool session is being recorded for the benefit of our membership and continuous improvement. It will be available at a later date, so if there's anything that you want to revisit, it is certainly there for you to do so, and other members that weren't able to join us tonight, they'll be able to take out this awesome session. Please mute your microphone to keep background noise to a minimum. We love seeing your faces, however, we do understand, so if you do want to come and join us live, feel welcome, but keep in mind what is in the background and the orientation of your camera. If you have any questions during the presentation, please submit them via chat, and I or someone on the team will relay it to our presenter. If you think of a question during the presentation and we've already moved on to a new topic, please submit it via chat and we will put it in the parking lot and ask it at the end of the session. And if there are any other questions that you have, submit them via chat. We'd like to see the questions, but we're going to give the presenter an opportunity to go through the presentation. Also, it'll be better for the recording as well. All right, and with that, I'll introduce Shivani. Shivani, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year, everyone. This is our first event of 2021, and I welcome you all in today's event. I would like to thank Sue Santola, our VP of Programs, her entire team, and all the volunteers who have supported us to put this event together. Jira is a very, very popular agile project management tool, and I'm sure this session is gonna be very productive and helpful for you guys. Let me introduce our presenter, Virna Ali, to you. Virna Ali is a healthcare IT-focused project leader with over 15 years of success managing application system, process transformation, and modernization efforts for government agencies and corporations. Virna is a certified project management professional, certified Scrum Master, and very skilled in aligning business goals with technology solutions. I'm sure we'll have a lot to learn, and we'll go back home with a lot of learnings and practices on how to manage or how to use Jira tool after this session. Please join me to welcome Virna Ali.
Hello. Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
So happy to see all of your names. I wish I could see all of your faces, but these are our times. So I am going to share my screen. Hopefully, if somebody can give me a wave, if you can let me know that you see it, we can go ahead and get started. Thank you, Paul. So thank you, Shivani, for the very kind introduction, and thank you to all of you from the South Florida PMI chapter for having me this evening as your speaker. As indicated in the agenda, we're going to be covering project management tools, specifically tonight, Jira. So I'll share my agenda slides so you have an idea of what we're going to be covering during my presentation. So do a little bit of an introduction, both of myself and of what we'll cover. Some product basics about Jira. We'll go over a bit of the functionality, and then I will specifically talk about some use cases, some personal use cases, so case studies, And then after we do that, I'm sure people will have plenty of questions. Everything about JIRA is fair game. Everything PMP is fair game. That's what we're here for. So please don't hesitate to ask. And I look forward to engaging with you during this presentation. So a little bit more about me and my professional background. I'm currently a senior management consultant with Think Consulting. We advise, coach, collaborate, and design transformative but achievable ways forward for our clients. We do have offices in both Baltimore, Maryland, and also in Boca Raton. So hopefully one day when we can travel safely again, I can come down and for a visit. Other parts of my background include program and project management. Overall, I have been a project manager or a program manager in one capacity or another for the last 16 years, overall since 2005. My primary focus has been in healthcare IT for both nonprofits and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. So I did have the benefit of serving for about 10 years as a government contractor for CMS. I have also had an opportunity to participate in the proposal process for various companies over the last 10 years, including being asked to come on as a consultant for some proposals. And I spent 1 year full-time dedicated to being a business developer for a small woman-owned business here in Maryland. I've also held several roles in business operations, including manager of business operations quite early in my career, and more recently as a director of operations for a company. I've been involved with federal government relations and advocacy for about 7 years, including a couple of years spent working directly with Capitol Hill, and some years spent as an advocate for patients with end-stage renal disease. So just a little bit about my end-stage renal disease background. In case you're wondering, end-stage renal disease is kidney failure. So in 2004, my kidneys failed. I spent some time on dialysis and was fortunate enough to receive a kidney pancreas transplant. So that's the reason for my subject matter expertise. I have walk the walk of those who have had kidney failure. So that means I've also been a Medicare beneficiary. So that's been very important to my work and something that I spend a lot of time volunteering to help and support because it is near and dear to my heart. So on to JIRA. Before we even dive into it, there is something I want to share with you. I want to make very clear that although my talk is about JIRA, I'm a tech agnostic partner. I don't like to anchor myself to a single tool or to a particular platform. And I think over the course of my career, this has really allowed me to develop solutions that are based on the client's priorities. They allow me the flexibility to be forward or backward compatible, depending on what the technology is that they're using or working with. And it also allows me and my team to be true problem solvers. So that said, let's talk about one of the project management tools that I've had the benefit of using a number of times over the years, and that is, of course, JIRA. So JIRA has, I've used JIRA for different projects since about 2015. The setup and use has varied greatly depending on the project requirements. The use has ranged from service desk to manage comparative billing reports, a help desk, agile development team that built a dynamic data and analysis tool, and 3 other use cases in particular that we will go over in more detail later in my presentation. You're probably wondering at this point why there is a monster in our midst. If you're looking at the screen, there is a picture of Godzilla, and that is because Godzilla has something to do with JIRA. JIRA was released in 2002. The name JIRA is actually a truncation of Gojira, which is the Japanese word for Godzilla. So the name actually originated from a nickname that the developers used to refer to the first product, which was Bugzilla. And as you can imagine, they used it to track bugs. So the use has only increased from there. It went from being a bug tracker to being an agile development tool to being now an agile project management tool. So a little bit about JIRA and what you can do with it. So I took the liberty of taking some screenshots for you so that you can get a sense of what you'd see when you go to the Atlassian website. Atlassian is the company that developed JIRA and all of the products that you see on the screen. Definitely advise you to go to their site, take a walk around, take a look at what the different projects are. They have a very robust library of information, tutorials, a blog that you can sign up for. So I really think that you can find something that will help you. And you probably have come across at least one of these tools in your career. So for Jira software, which is the first thing under plan, track, and support on the left, it's exactly what you think it is. It is the Jira software that everyone knows and loves. I personally have used that one, as well as Jira Service Management, which is a little further down that list. And it is an IT service management tool. I've used Confluence, which is their document collaboration tool. I've used Trello, and I know there's a free version out there, so maybe perhaps some of you have used Trello as well. It's a Kanban task and project management tool. And then there is also the Atlassian Marketplace. You'll see that way over on the right column. And the Atlassian Marketplace is actually a platform that they put in place so that users can buy add-ons that add to the functionality of their Atlassian products. It also allows there to be a connector between an Atlassian product and a third-party tool. So you can imagine if you're able to connect Jira or any other Atlassian product for that matter with something else third party that you're using out there, the robustness and the functionality only increases. So now that you've heard a little bit about the product, let's talk about the functionality. So roadmaps in Jira enable you to quickly create a timeline of your plans. It helps you to update your priorities as they change. And of course, as we project managers do, we communicate status and risk of the work to our stakeholders. If you have a lot of dependencies and handoffs in your project, I think roadmaps is a great way to ensure work accountability, transparency, and communicating change. Not everyone can be on a meeting. Not everyone has the time to send an email and wait for an answer. So I think using Jira in an organization is a great way to allow people the ability to log into a centralized place, take a look for themselves to see real time what the status of the work is. And I think that is one of the greatest benefits of this tool. So you can also see that there are many other things that you can do on the left, and I'll go into a couple more of these on the next couple slides. So Kanban boards, I mentioned that previously. Trello is the free version that Atlassian put together, but there's a very robust version that's available within Jira. And on the Sprint Kanban board, you can see that I had to blank out the actual issues or tickets, as you may want to call them, but the issues are blanked out because this is a real system that I took pictures from, and this is real client work. So for their privacy, I blurred it out, but you can see, like a traditional Kanban board, there's to do, in progress, and done. And I think one of the benefits of Jira's Kanban board is that depending on how complex your workflows are, you can add additional columns and swim lanes. So the to-do, in progress, and done can be the 3 that you need and no more. For the team that I was working with on this project, we had a QA component, so it would be to-do, in progress, QA it, and then done. So you could always see what was in the to-do column. So that would probably be, backlog items. In progress, so the things that people are currently working on. QA, the things that needed to be reviewed. And then once they were done, Jira will automatically cross out the information, the task information, and then you can move it to the done column. So I think that's a great way if you work visually, if you have a very large team or a dispersed team, especially now with COVID. Many of us, probably almost all of us, have been working remotely. And so it's not as simple as it once was, where you would go to your colleague's desk and say, hey, what's going on with whatever the ticket is? What's going on with this item? Where are we with this? Are we on track? You can actually look. You can put notes in the ticket. So if you have something in progress and you put notes about the progress you're making, other people can see that. So that's a little bit about regular Sprint Kanban boards. The next one I want to cover is custom Kanban boards. As I mentioned, if you have a very complex workflow, you will probably want to make your Kanban board match your workflow. So again, you'll see that I have these columns, and the only one you would recognize is the one that says done. There is no to do, there is no in progress. It's all of these are steps in the workflow, and then it's done. So I think it's only 10 columns in total here, but it is a 10-step process to get from this is what we have to do to it's finished. And there are about 20 people working on any given time on these tickets. So the ability to have a ticket sitting out there, be able to assign it to someone, to see where it is in the process as it moves through, is very valuable, because you can also, it also enables you to see not only who's working at what, but gives you an idea of the speed of the movement of your tasks. So I think that's also very valuable, because in my mind, that helps me with understanding velocity and capacity. And I think that's important when you're trying to do some future planning about how much additional work you can take on, who's overloaded versus someone who has bandwidth, and so forth. So this is very powerful in that sense, especially because you can customize this to match whatever it is you're working on. And you could literally customize the board every single time you have a different project, or every single phase of the project, you can build more boards. So service management, as I mentioned previously, service management is really IT help desk, if you think about it. And you'll see on the left side of the screen, it actually does say help desk near the slider. And so the service management tool enables you to manage your help desk functions. It allows you to receive, track, manage, and resolve your help desk or service desk requests. I'm using this currently with a client that I'm working with, and we use almost all of the items that you see on the left-hand side. I'll go through them briefly with you, and I'll highlight a couple that I think may be of interest if you're running a help desk. So the queue allows you to see all of the tickets, all of the open tickets, or even sort them so they're only your own tickets. And permissions can be set, and different user groups can be set. So managers might have more permissions than, say, a customer or a regular user. And that enables the manager to see what tickets are being worked on, how many are in the backlog. It would eventually help you with scheduling if you run a 24/7 help desk. Service requests is exactly what you think it is. It's the place where you would go when you want to enter the service request. If you use the incidents, you call them incidents instead of a service request, you would log it there. Problems to me is very interesting. This is where you would write up what your problem is, and it allows you to work through the investigation process of doing your root cause analysis. I think it's especially helpful when you have repeat problems. Why does this keep happening? What are the ways that we have tried to resolve this problem? Which of these ways has been helpful to us? And eventually you'd want to think, which of these solutions will be the one that we should make as part of our solutions book, if you will. There's usually scripting of some sort that people will follow when they work a help desk, and there are known solutions to things. And this could go into your wiki or your SOPs or repository, however you want to call it, and enable you to then really investigate what it is that's happening and why it keeps happening. And if it turns out that these problems require a change, the next section is called changes. It provides full visibility on the changes that are made to the services via change records. So if you think about it just in terms of, I don't know if you've done software development and somebody needs to enter a change request. And then once the change request is accepted or approved, you're going to go ahead and implement that change, right? And so then that means that there's a change to the service or the product, and people need to be aware of that. So all of the things that you would normally do in a change management process can happen here. For the operations side, services is used to set up the change category. So the two kind of fit together. It provides you more context about the changes, the risks, the responsible parties, et cetera. So it's really a good place for you to organize yourself operationally. Alerts is a place where you can, of course, set alerts. But let's say that there is a particular client that has particular SLAs. You want to be alerted anytime a ticket from that client comes in. This is where you would set your alerts and notifications. On call is the place where you would want to put together your call schedule. So again, if you have shifts of call, on call workers, you can put the schedule together here, and that enables everyone to log into a single place to find out when it is that they would be on call. The knowledge base is exactly what you think it is. It's a knowledge base. It allows you to share information. I would say you probably want to share your solutions to problems with your users or your help desk folks. You can manage knowledge base articles here. And when we talk about Confluence in the next slide, you can also manage knowledge base articles across multiple spaces inside Confluence. That'll make more sense in a minute. But I think service management is critical. If you're using Jira already and you're running a help desk, I think this is a tool that you really should consider. There are other ones out there, of course, but we're talking about Jira. So definitely look into this one if that's part of your work. Confluence functionality. So Atlassian says that Confluence is a tool that improves collaboration through more efficient knowledge sharing. That's a mouthful. I like to think of it as a team wiki and a knowledge center. So again, I took a screenshot of some current work that I'm doing. I did blank out some things. So although you see table of contents and part of it's missing, there are items in here. And I also blanked out one here. But this is for a graphics hub. And there's an overview section. This is the page we're on currently. And you can see, as I mentioned on the previous slide, there's a thing called spaces. Spaces are basically, you can think of them like a workspace. So if you have different groups within a department, each of them may call for having their own space. So let's say, for example, your business analysts have their own space so they can store their information about how to collect requirements, how to document them, or how to write epics and user stories and so forth. So they would have their own space versus the testers in your company who would have their own testing templates. They would have, different matrices, a feedback form for the testers to fill out so that they can get some feedback on the testing. Test summary reports and things like that can go in here. So this is really, think of it like a repository and think of the spaces like workplace. Table of contents, if you have a lot of documents that you're creating, which this group in particular does, we have how-to articles. We definitely take meeting notes, many, many meetings, many, many discussions and working sessions. And so we document all of that here. So everyone has, the benefit of being able to go to a single place that acts as a source of record for that project. Here we talk about, on the right under table of contents, we talk about how we work. And so we talk about Adobe Experience Manager, we have file and project naming conventions, we have file technical specs, we have lots of information on our hardware and software. If we're using Aspera and our shared storage, we have information on how to work in that. We have project templates, workflows, etc. So this is a really great way for people to be able to access common information. So instead of everyone emailing each other and things getting lost in email, and when folks move on and their email is retired, that information is no longer available. So this just ensures that the information is quote unquote institutionalized and that it's shareable and it's retrievable, which is one of the things that you want when you have this much information flying around and that many people working on their project and this many things happening all at once. So that's a bit about the functionality of Jira and also of Confluence, which I think are the two major components that you would want to consider if you were thinking about using Atlassian products. So case studies. As I said, I've been using Jira myself in many projects since about 2015. And there were three in particular that stood out in my mind as being cases that I thought would be interesting to a group of project managers and potential project managers, management professionals, and people who are interested in project management. So here you can see that I have had a project that I managed. It was a DevOps, so development and operations. It was a DevOps project. The challenge that we were faced with was figuring out how to drive modernization, create a culture of agility, and when they were not agile previously, and then process improvement for this company, while also applying all of this to support an existing mission critical project for a federal agency. Just one of those things alone is typically very difficult. The fact that we had a couple of things happening all at the same time made it all the more challenging. The solution was that I wrote and delivered a strategic plan for the company, and it helped transform their services and delivery. The approach that I used included human-centered design. So really, in my mind, it's talking to the people that do the work and figuring out what works for them and what they need, what worked for you in the past, what's not working for you, what would you like to see, and so forth. How do you use this? We utilized open source platforms and tools. It is a federal agency after all, so we like to be very cost conscious. And then we leveraged Jira as the central hub for everything. We integrated every tool that we used in our project software development cycle with Jira, and we gained huge benefits from doing so. So some of the results that I highlighted in my case study: we did centralize our information management. As I said in the previous slides when we were talking about functionality, one of the biggest benefits of using Jira is that no matter how dispersed your team is, everything can be found in one place. It's a centralized workspace, and everything can be done from within Jira. It really increased our work transparency also, because people didn't have to go find other people or wait for email updates to come in or even wait for a meeting. It was almost like having real-time reporting available within a tool, which was pretty exciting because our team had never had that before. We also were able to integrate our software development tools with Jira and automate wherever possible. And because of the work that we did, the company decided to establish a IT center of excellence. And so that was really important for the company because they had never had those kind of standards and consistency before, and they wanted to keep up the momentum. So for those of you who are a little more technically inclined and curious, this is just a screenshot of what my workflow looked like. So true to form, Jira is right here front and center. And as we move through, and some of you who have done software development or are technical may recognize some of these product names, but you can see that just even by following the arrows, it steps through each piece in the process. But what you're not seeing is that all of this information always feeds back to Jira. We just thought that this would look really busy if every time you had a box, it had an arrow pointing back to Jira. But truly, everything that happened within, say, Eclipse or Gradle, if you were in Jira and somebody, commented on code, the Jira ticket would be updated to say, Susan commented on the code. And then you could see the actual comment. So you never had to necessarily leave Eclipse or Gradle if that's where you were working. But also, you didn't need to go anywhere except to Jira if you wanted to know what was going on. And I just think that was a really powerful tool for a company that was trying to do so much for such an important project. So the second case study that I'd like to share with you is a reusable framework project. I'd like to share a little bit about the company too, because I think this makes it all the more interesting as a case study. So the company that did the DevOps work is the same company who did the reusable framework, software framework project. And the twist on that is that they were a small company with a very limited budget. They're extremely risk averse. They were trying to introduce new concepts to the organization and also establish their agile and development practice. It was a new team that was comprised of business analysts, developers, project managers, scrum masters, technical writers, testers. They were all working out of different locations and different offices. They were all just learning how to be agile. And so they were trying to put all of these new concepts into practice on top of having time change problems because everybody was in different time zones. We also had language and cultural barriers. So talk about things being really challenging. I really stand by the fact that for this one, Jira helped this team. The DevOps project and this reusable framework project that's on screen now were all with the same company. And then the real kicker was that both projects were being done in parallel at the same time. So the challenge for this reusable framework project is figuring out how to reduce time to market for software delivery, implementing lean product development practices, and also making the processes scalable for that same small company. Again, we started with writing and delivering a strategic plan for the company, and it did, again, transform services and delivery. We used the same approaches with human-centered design, open source platforms and tools, and Jira being the centerpiece of everything, and integrating with Jira. We had some different results from this project, but I don't think they were any less impressive, especially to us as a team, knowing that we were all working on 2 projects at once. But it centralized our information management using both Jira and Confluence. Again, work transparency was key for us, with everyone being dispersed and not together in the same, co-located in the same place. It was really important, especially with the time zones, that people worked in their natural state, and that as you logged in and needed to see things, you could see what happened. We were able to use Confluence to establish our code libraries. So the whole point of reusable software framework is that you have pieces of code that you write that can then be reused for other projects. So we also defined and documented how we work, which you can imagine with that many types of team members with varying requirements and job responsibilities, that it was really important for us to write out FAQs, to put our processes, our SOPs together, our procedures, work instructions, templates, and have them all in a single place. I can't tell you how many times I would get emails before we started with Jira saying, does anybody have a template for, or where do we store? And we'd get links to places, all over the place in the company. The links were sometimes broken. This person didn't have access. And it added additional unnecessary challenges. So this resolved all that for us. For those who are curious, again, this is the framework that we put together for the project. And so we put together, the reusable framework project was centered on us building a dynamic data application. So you'll see a lot of access to data and so forth. So as these things were moving through, behind the scenes, everything was being captured through Jira. The last case study is about a graphics hub. So the graphics hub was created in a very large company that had many departments and processes. And the team was brand new. They were brand new hires, and they were brought on one by one. The technology solution that was being implemented was also brand new. So as we were hiring folks, we were also trying to put together the solution, and everything was from scratch. There was no pre-existing work. There was nothing to transfer over from another group or another company. Everything was done from the ground up. So the challenge that we were faced with in the graphics hub is that we were trying to figure out the best tool set to facilitate people being able to request graphics and the team being able to monitor, deliver, and store very high volumes of very large sized graphics and assets for the company. Our solution was that we planned and executed a technology and staffing plan for this brand new department. We used Jira as the central hub, Confluence as our repository, and we integrated Jira with the tools in each step of the graphic development process and our workflows. So if you think back to the earlier slide where I showed you my Kanban board, the customized one that had the 10 columns, that's actually for this project. So when I say that they had a very complicated workflow, you can see that I meant that. Again, I am very proud of the results that we have achieved so far. This is still an ongoing project. But right at the beginning, we were able to save the client $500,000 because we advocated for the use of Jira over other competing tools. So there was a vendor scorecard, a competitive analysis that we put together to see why we would select Jira over other tools. What were the benefits? What was the cost, et cetera? As with all of the projects that I've talked about, we centralized our information management. We really increased work transparency, which is especially critical when you have brand new people, a brand new department, brand new to the company. So not only do they not know the ins and outs of just how to do day-to-day operational work, but they also didn't know how to work together because everyone was new. So all of this was happening at once. We were able to, again, define and document how we worked in Confluence. We put together many FAQs, wikis, processes, procedures. Again, the screenshot that I shared with you earlier that showed Confluence is actually for this project. So when I showed you that, we have lots of procedures and we have lots of meeting notes and so forth, this is exactly why. So the big thing too is that this created a mechanism, using Jira created a mechanism for the help desk to be able to track issues all the way to resolutions. Because it is a functioning help desk, there are also, of course, help desk metrics and reporting. And as you saw in the problems section of the IT service management piece for Jira, you're able to analyze, do a root cause analysis on some of the recurring problems. And then that enabled us to figure out what a concrete solution would be for that particular problem, write it up in the scripting. So recognizing early on when someone came in and they said, I'm having this kind of problem, that it could be related to this same thing. And then we could utilize that and reuse it for troubleshooting purposes. There's really been a lot of utility for us in using Jira as our project management tool. You can see there are varying uses for it. We've benefited from all of them. I think the biggest thing to know about Jira is that it is so versatile. I've talked about 3 very different types of projects of various sizes and complexities, and Jira was able to really handle and keep well managed all types of projects for us. So I'm very impressed just from a personal standpoint with Jira. I appreciate the interface. The user interface is good. The UI UX is wonderful. It's not hard to use. You have to get used to, I think, some of the language. So I would call it a ticket personally, but Jira calls it issues. So although I would be, how many tickets do we have open? The real language, the real terminology you should use is how many issues are open. So there's so much more that I could share about Jira. There are plenty of blogs out there that talk about the tips and tricks. There are lots of analyses out there in Google land that people have put together, and some very well done ones, I might add. But I think that, knowing the benefits, knowing what some of the pros and cons are as well, because, Jira is not perfect. There are always things that can be improved. But whether this is the right tool for you, or if pieces of it are a right tool for you, is something that, as someone who's used different tools throughout my career, it's been something that I've had to really decide for myself with the client and the end results in mind. So I would like to share that Think is hosting a PM Underground about all things Jira. It's about a week from now. The registration URL is here on screen. It's about an hour long, and I will be hosting. So if you would like to follow up with us, you'd like to hear more about Jira, we're going to have some other folks who've used Jira on the call. So if you want to talk about Jira, benefit from Jira, wondering about Jira, if you're an expert or a novice, doesn't matter. You all are welcome. And again, that's January 19th. It'll be from 5 to 6 p.m. And I want to thank you for your time and for your attention. And I will now open it up to questions with the help of Paul.
Thanks. We've gotten a few questions, so let me go ahead and start with Galaxy S20 gave us a question, and they are wondering, is Jira considered an open source model, or how do you consider it as a base?
So I would say no, it's not open source, because the tool itself is set. You can't go in, modify it. Users create little hacks and things. But I will say that because of the Atlassian marketplace, that the ability to create other products that then mesh well and play well with Jira almost brings you to the same point, right? So clear answer, no, it is not open source.
Okay. Next question is, what is the learning curve to get the staff up to speed in Jira? What was the change management process like for the staff and the team?
Right. So I really think that it depends on your team. For me personally, it varied by project. So the big rub for me was that we were trying to do a lot all at once. We were trying to introduce agile practices and discipline. We're trying to, change the mindset of the organization. We're trying to achieve particular results. So you have some people that, while they're very tech savvy, they're developers after all, many of them. You have folks like the business analysts who are like, why do we need to do this? What was wrong with us using the spreadsheet? And how come we just can't email like we used to? So as you can imagine, there was a very, very large effort to try to communicate the change, to prepare people for what we are doing and what we will be doing. So the as is and the to be, and making sure that people, because everyone learns differently. Some people are very visual. They need to watch a video or a demonstration. Other people are oral and they like to hear. And other people are kinesthetic and they like to do, learn by doing. So we had to make sure that every type of learning modality was met, and that people had an opportunity to give feedback and they felt heard, and that it was an easy transition from doing everything that was in email and Excel and so forth, and bringing it into a single place. So it did take a while. The speed at one of the other companies was really quick and it was very abrupt, and it was a shock to the system, no doubt. But people adapt, I would say. So for the one company, it was an expectation up front. So there was almost no management, so to speak, that needed to be done. But for others, it was kind of a slow process to make sure everyone was comfortable with such a big change. So great question.
Just a little housekeeping. Everyone is informing us that the link for your seminar isn't working. So maybe
I think Ed posted the link back into the chat. So if everybody'd like to look for Ed Mullen's comment, I think he's got it corrected.
Working, so.
I just posted the one that is working.
Okay,
fantastic.
perfect.
Thank you, Ed.
All right. And then another question that we have is, how does Jira differ from Azure DevOps for project management? In your opinion, which is better for rapid development?
So that's a really good question. I would like to know the answer to that. I have not used Azure DevOps personally, so I couldn't say how well it worked. As you know from the presentation that I gave, I when I was working in DevOps, it was in Jira. I don't even know that we considered it as a company. It might have been one of those cases where we were told that we were going to use Jira because someone had heard it was the best. And so we made that work. And that, realistically speaking, that does happen at a lot of companies. Some companies do not share the process of, vendor management, like how do you go and source vendors? How do you compare their products and so forth? Sometimes it's word of mouth, and that's the selection, and that is the hand that you're dealt as the PM. So I don't have an answer, but I would open the floor to anyone who might, because I think we could all benefit. Maybe if somebody can pop something in the chat to Paul, we might get an answer on that.
Yeah, feel free if someone has some experience on the other side or can add to the conversation, let me know in the chat, and then I can unmute you. Next question is, can information be saved, archived for record, or does it simply feed other tools and repositories for recorded information?
Oh, no, it does both. So Confluence is the repository. So if you want to save artifacts, you want to, document things so that they are part of the system of record, and this is the definitive source of truth, you can do that using Jira.
Okay. Can you create a project plan Gantt chart from Jira?
Yes. So when I shared roadmap with you, I'm not sure if, let me go back to my own presentation. I think on the right-hand side of that one screen, yes. Can I have the screen for a minute, Paul? Is it okay to share?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me go back to presentation mode. There we go. So on roadmap, doesn't that look like a Gantt chart? So So when you put all of your epics in and your issues and tickets and things, what it does is plot everything out based on the due dates, the start and due dates that you assign. So you're essentially putting together a roadmap, aka a Gantt chart. So I would say the answer to that is for sure a yes.
Is Confluence a different package that needs to be ordered separately, or is it part of the Jira package?
No, all of the products that you saw on screen when I showed you the first slide that showed all of that Atlassian products, Confluence is a different package and different pricing.
Okay. Felix wanted to share from his experience with Jira. He said when you have 2 or more instances, there's a lot of work involved to convert and merge. You have any comment on that? Just give a little chuckle. So
I was only thinking in my head, how might that work? You have 2 different instances, you want to merge them into one. So that would, I don't even begin to know personally, but if anyone else has an answer to that, that would be wonderful to know.
Kai is asking, in the case study, how did you estimate the $500,000 savings by implementing Jira?
So that wasn't a guess. It was an actual savings amount based on pricing that we got from competing vendors. So the idea was that the company thought that they could utilize their in-house developers with expertise in a low-code platform, and that they would use their developers to not only gain development experience and to up their coding score, basically, that when they estimated out the purchasing of the platform, the cost of the development time, and everything that would go into what basically amounted to reverse engineering Jira, I asked them to, I humored them, please show me your estimate. Let me see what the functionality is. Tell me what you're going to do and how long it's going to take and what it's going to cost. The outcome, the result of that, and I got vetoed. I actually had to go to the board, literally an approval board at the company to get Jira approved. Now, the thing that should crack everyone up and make them wonder why people would ever think this way is that the package that I put together for Jira was about $9,000 up front with a $1,000 per month cost for the users that I needed in the system. Those are full-on users. So $9,000 versus purchasing this low-code platform, having a team of 5 full-time developers who are going to do, I couldn't even remember how many sprints, but the cost was $500,000 to do it their way. And I had to talk them out of their own bad idea to save them their money. So it's God's work some days. You guys know that.
Andrea is making a comment and a question as well. And her IT project management office handles a majority of our projects with vendors for COTS solutions versus in-house development. Do you feel this tool works well when dealing with so many vendors and methods that we don't always have control over? We often have to manage the communication between vendor, business, and IT.
So I want to restate to make sure I'm tracking the question. Do I feel that Jira works well when there are lots of vendors along with your own internal team? Andrea, did I get that right? I just want to confirm before I start running at the mouth here.
Correct.
Thanks. So one of the things that I will say up front, I think my answer is yes, but this is only my personal opinion. I'm sure there are others here who are probably, far more versed in Jira than I, but this is one person's opinion. So I think the answer is yes for me. The reason why is because we have a very large number of tools that we integrate into Jira for the current project that I'm on. And each of those tools has its own vendor. And so we have also, because the organization as a whole utilizes Teams, the Microsoft Teams product, all of the chat that goes in, all of the, instead of emailing, we have our own chat that ties to Confluence. So as we're chatting, it's getting logged. So as long as we stay within the channel that we're chatting about, all of that stuff is saved. When we circulate things for people to review, we're just circulating links to Confluence, and all of our vendors are given access to Jira. And of course, as I mentioned, it's one of those tools where you want to have permissions and user groups set up. So when, say, for example, I came on, they said, well, you helped us build the system. You should be a super user. You should have access to everything. Paul, you're a customer. You shouldn't see everything that we see, including all of our tickets and all of the problems. How many of our other clients have, gone to the help desk and sent messages, cries for help. You shouldn't see that. So you have limited access. Your access is limited to only seeing the form where you would enter your requests or information about your particular account. So the vendors that we're working on with Adobe Experience Manager have access to Jira, and we have a particular space for them to work, and all of the communications that are related to Adobe AEM are housed within there. So it can be very contained if you make it that way.
And she was also saying that they also use Teams as well as a communication.
Pretty popular product these days, yeah.
All right. And then Hillary is asking, maybe with the link that you provided, if there are PDUs available with that next training session that you're allowing sign up.
No, that so the PM Underground is really, a nice private safe space. I would say we're not intending to educate, so a PDU would not apply here. This is really more of a discussion forum. People can come with questions. They can also come with ideas. We just want to really create a space where people can follow up after this. We don't want to give you a presentation and then you're left to your own devices. If you have questions or want to regroup, that's the place to do it.
I have a question from Shannon. She's asking, what version of Jira are you using? Because it looks different from the one that they are using.
I would have to look, and that would call for me having to log into my client VPN. So I don't have an answer right now, but I will certainly message back to someone from the chapter and make sure that answer gets back out to you.
Okay. Felix wants to know your opinion on Jira's API. You have mentioned that on some of your projects you integrated into existing platforms.
Mm-hmm. So SharePoint to me is like Jira Confluence. So I know that, and I'm talking about just SharePoint, not SharePoint as it's integrated to the rest of Teams. So treat SharePoint as its own thing. Everything that you do in SharePoint is based on housing of documents, right? Or housing of artifacts of some sort. So you can, Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, Visio, things like that. Those are all the things that you would put in your SharePoint. You're able to copy and paste links, and you're able to limit access to certain folders if they are private. Maybe it's a management folder and that has performance metrics or something, or budgets that people shouldn't see. The same thing can be done in Jira. The added benefit is Jira allows you to do so much more. So instead of having to jump over to SharePoint to get all of your project documents and then go back to Jira to look at the ticket, you can actually have the two together and say, oh, this is the ticket the issue I was working on. And here's the documentation that goes with it. And so you're never breaking out of Jira to do it, whereas SharePoint is solely for saving the documents and Jira is everything else.
Right. I think you had a follow-up question. Maybe you saw it because I was asking exactly about SharePoint and if you had any significant differences, which I think you addressed without knowing you had to address it.
Nope, didn't see it, but I'm glad I somehow thought ahead.
Then,
the question about APIs, yeah. So we're able to hook into Teams itself. So I would imagine that you could also hook into SharePoint, but I don't know that for sure. And we certainly didn't do it. We're using Confluence, so it would be redundant for you to hook into the chat feature in Teams and have SharePoint available, and then also have it hooked in when you have Confluence, it's like doubling up and confusing people because you would, look in one place or not the other. But if you're not planning, you already have SharePoint and you're not planning, I think there probably is a way for you to connect the two. I just have never done it personally. The people at Jira, the Atlassian folks, really charming, by the way. Did I tell you all that they're an Australian company? So if you really enjoy that Australian accent, give them a call. You get the good day mates and everything. So they're very charming folks, but very knowledgeable and really, yes, Aussies. So those folks are just really good at what they do, and I've enjoyed their product a lot. And I think they're really helpful. So, if you want to do a product demo or you have these kinds of questions, they'll help you with that.
That's all the questions I have at the moment. We'll see if anyone else comes in, but then I also, since the question came up regarding the PDUs, I did send a message in the chat earlier. If you registered, those PDUs will be added automatically by our good friend Rocky because of your PMI member ID if you're a member of the South Florida chapter. If you are not a member of the South Florida chapter, you can send Rocky an email and then he'll be able to add it. His email is assistant@southfloridapmi.org, or if you're from an outside chapter. So it's a little housekeeping on the PDU since I see that question has popped up a couple times. Let me see, there's a few new messages. Calvin is saying that he ran into an issue with Teams is when running multiple similar projects and trying to share common files between projects was difficult. Does Confluence help with common projects? You're on
Sorry.
mute.
Yeah. I think I just won Zoom bingo for being on mute and having someone tell me that. So I feel that, when you say common projects, I assume, I hope I'm right about this, that you mean that there are some commonalities between things and that you are you're very widely sharing the same stuff over and over. Am I understanding that correctly?
You said common files between projects.
Oh, common files
Yeah.
between projects. Yeah, absolutely. Within Jira, you can link anything, and even within the issue ticket. So when you're using Jira and you want to reference something, which is why we use Confluence, you can literally just go to Confluence, pick the link like you would with SharePoint, and it's a much faster process, in my opinion. You have to right click in SharePoint and you got to find the thing that says copy link and then copy it and then go paste it somewhere. Yeah, no. There's actually a button at the top of Jira and it says link. So you can link to Confluence wherever it is. And you can, as long as they have the permission to see that kind of stuff, you can share away. Oh, and you can also, because of the email notifications in Jira, which I find very amusing because I get a lot of them, and you can change your notifications anyway. But the really nice thing is that you get emails letting people know that such and such Verna is sharing a file with you. And it's in the issue ticket. So when you get notifications from Jira that tickets are being updated, as a PM, I want to know when things are closed. I also want to know when somebody's trying to move a date. So if they're sharing a file, then I want to know what's in the file, and you get a link to it. And then you can go straight away into Confluence to go open it. So I would imagine that would solve the problem of having common files that you want to share pretty frequently.
Right. I don't see any additional questions in their chat. I'd like to thank you for a wonderful presentation. We've gotten a lot of compliments to you and the information that was shared and how engaging it was. So we appreciate you being a wonderful presenter. And I think we can end the recording at this time so that if there is someone that maybe wants to ask something that doesn't want to be recorded, now would be a good time. We also want to thank our hosting partner, Think Consulting. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Verna. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Laura. You guys are amazing.
Our pleasure. Glad to be here. Thanks for spending your hour with me.
You crushed it, Verna.
Ah, thanks, Ed. You're too kind.
So just wanted to let everyone know we will have one PM tool session per month. So be sure to look for an email from us or look at the PMI calendar for some really new cool tools like Jira coming in the next few months. So I know you love this one, and I know you're going to love the ones that we have coming up in the future. So if there's nothing else, we can end the call, and everyone have a terrific evening. Take care. Bye-bye.
Verna.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.